What's up, guys? This is Snake55K here, and we're covering the interview by WellPlayed with Masato, RE9's game producer. This interview was conducted by Zach Jackson. Last week, Capcom invited Australian press to check out the demo for the highly anticipated Resident Evil Requiem. I didn't make the trek to Sydney to do so, as Karian Verberg had already previewed the demo when he got the sticks at Tokyo Game Show. But I did get the chance to chat with the game's producer Masato Kumazawa and ask the questions about Requiem and Resident Evil that I'd been dying to get answers to. Well played. Resident Evil Requiem sees the series return to Raccoon City for the first time since Resident Evil 3. What made the team decide to return to the city where it all started almost 30 years ago? Masato. When you compare it to the last main entries, Resident Evil 7 and also Village, it weren't far away from Raccoon City and Umbrella. By portraying these outskirts like the country or the village, and also and so on. I believe that going back to Raccoon City and back to the main part of the story is best for the fans. They will probably enjoy the story on what happened and uncover further. This is pretty interesting because I think that going back to Raccoon City brings up a lot of questions that are unanswered. And I think he's really cooking here because he's, saying that, want to go back to their roots to uncover what happened in Raccoon City, which is really good for the story. Well played. Recent Resident Evil titles have utilized a Stalker enemy. With Requiem, how difficult has it been finding the right balance with this mechanic to make sure players don't get frustrated, seeing as it's something they've experienced in previous games? Have you ever considered having an option to disable the mechanic? Since we both know what both of these abbreviations are, I'm just going to use those. MK. I understand how there are a lot of opinions surrounding the Stalker, but we are giving a survivor horror experience. We did learn from the past on how to balance it. We're trying not to make it a main part. It's like a small part of the game. The most important thing is that because this game is new, we wanted to focus on trying to scare the player in many different ways, providing that players can be involved in many different kinds of situations. We're just trying to uncover a whole lot of scenarios to make sure players can get scared and experience the horror. This is pretty interesting. What I get from this is that he's trying to say that they're trying to make the game more well-rounded and flexible and not kind of one-dimensional. Try to give some options, and maybe they'll put in like different types of horror, like psychological horror, like jump scares, and put you in like different uncomfortable situations. WP. With Grace being the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft from Resident Evil Outbreak, can we expect more characters from Outbreak to show up in Requiem? MK. I would say that yes, there are going to be some characters from the past series to come in, but don't over expect or hype it. We can't promise you anything about that. The only thing I can say is that there will be characters that have been involved in the Raccoon City incident involved in the game. So Matsumoto is basically confirming Outbreak characters are going to be in the game. Um, this is pretty cool. I think they're going to show up in the flashbacks and the investigation into the incident. I did make a video about what characters could show up in Resident Evil 9. I'll link that in the description. But I think we're definitely going to see some characters that we didn't expect, and maybe some new ones. Well played. Resident Evil is a series with many beloved characters. Do you think people will take to Grace quicker than Ethan Winters because of her existing connection to the Resident Evil universe? MK. Yes. So I'm hoping that players will definitely get used to Grace more when you compare her to Ethan when they're playing the game. Ethan did more of a job of being the player's camera than anything, and consciously we did this very consciously in development of the game, whereas comparison with Grace we focused more on having her character out there. We wanted to make sure that we show how is scared. We showed that by what kind of words she says, actions she does, or how she acts when she's surprised. Well, this is pretty interesting. Looks like they're gonna really flesh out Grace to the max. Um, Having her having a lot of emotion, a lot of action, have her react to a lot of things that's going on in the environment. I'm really looking forward to this. Well played. Resident Evil Village had the Duke act as the game's merchant. Will Requiem have a merchant character? If so, will they be a returning character or a new one? MK. In this game, there is no merchant character. So I guess they made the decision to not have a merchant in this game, but they show up in a lot of the games, which begs the question, who are these merchants? And what do they want? Well played. One of my favorite parts of Resident Evil is the save room music. How much work goes into designing these rooms and their musical themes? MK. Yes, like the past, we will have a safe room music that's going to be there. I didn't hear exactly from the sound team, but what I can say is that we made sure that the song will sound fresh. It'll make the players feel refreshed. Sorry, I didn't hear it from the sound team, but I'd like to hear it from the sound team as well. Okay, so this confirms that we're going to have save rooms. The sound team always does very well in these games, and I'm looking forward to how the music sounds in this game. Like for real, like the music is great. WP. With Welcome, including characters from Outbreak, could we ever see Capcom revisit Outbreak or that style of game? MK. Unfortunately, at the moment, we don't have any plans of making games like those. But maybe if there's lots of need or there's a need from the gamers or they want more like Outbreak, then maybe yes. I personally would like an Outbreak, and maybe eventually down the road I would like to make one, but at the moment, no. In saying that, you don't need to play Resident Evil Outbreak to enjoy Resident Evil Requiem. In fact, the only knowledge that you'll need is the main character, Grace Ashcroft, is the daughter of Alyssa Ashcroft, who featured in Outbreak. I just want to make that clear. Well played. Thank you for your time. I personally think a modern multiplayer Outbreak game would be dope. And you get to play with your friends and survive together in the when the outbreak first started. I think that would be great and fun. And to the knowledge point, um, you not having to have knowledge of what the prior games were, um, I don't know, it's kind of a dangerous area because you're kind of catering to two audiences. I hope that they really flesh out the story and cater to cater to the fan base that really loves Resident Evil, not just the new players. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll leave the article link in the description. And I hope you guys have a good one. Peace.